Good evening and salutations, my Beyond the Gates fans. Okay, so we get to the nitty gritty about Anita. The real reason why she has, I don't know if this all connects to it. Okay, let me sit there and try to explain. Let me try to explain. So, after Naomi comes over and gives her some sort of gift, some sort of, in case, like, glass thing about, like, the articulates. She's upset, she's kind of emotional, she goes away, then she comes back and they talk about it a little bit more, and then I guess she leaves to go talk to Bill, right? And then she reads a letter. And at first, it almost seemed like it was somewhat the same thing, like, the grievances with the other girls, as far as them leaving. As far as her leaving, and, them being upset about it. I'm like, it's been like 30 years, probably more. Y'all need to kind of let that shit go at this point. But apparently, it was from somebody else. And I'm going to have to be very careful about the words that I use. So if I use words that are... Anyway. Let's just say that this part gets what people call triggering. So she writes this long letter. And the guy... Apparently, she started the group. She started this whole group. It wasn't Anita or anything like that. It was her. And when Dante or whatever came in, he fired her, saying that her voice was quote-unquote too ghetto. And then she was like, well, she came to Anita, and Anita was just cold, and Anita was just like, listen, show business isn't for everyone. And that's very true, right? I know, at that time she was like, damn, she's my sister and everything like that, but sometimes you gotta sit there and be real with someone. Anyway, long story short, that the letter was pretty much confirming that she unalived herself. And that's her dark secret, right? That's the secret that Sharon was sitting there saying, oh, well, I gotta really, your husband don't know everything or whatever, right? And, I am very split, right? Because, in all reality, I don't think that it's fair to hold her responsible for what this girl was going through on a mental health level, right? Like, she clearly had problems enough to sit there and go through what she went through. And just because she was like, hey, listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. That's on you. She clearly had issues way before. You don't just get granted, sometimes it may happen, but, in reality, you don't just get fired and just be like, well, I tried to get your help and you didn't help me, so it's your fault. It's like, no. There was demons that was already there way before that whole thing broke apart. And I just don't think that it's fair to sit there and put all that on her. Right? Now, I'm not a person that gives slack. I know some people sit there and look at it and be like, well, Anita was young at the time. They were all young. They were all sitting there trying to do their thing. It was tough times ahead, she wasn't rich or whatever. Like, she had to sit there and take her shot. So she had a young mind. But, and again, she's not a fortune teller. If I brush somebody off, I'm not going to sit there and think, oh, maybe they could unalive themselves if I just kind of ignore them. But that's what she's carrying. I don't know what this, part of me is just like, maybe that's why, they have this issue with her. I guess from an emotional level, I get it, but in other aspects, I don't think that it's fair to sit there and put all that on her. Now, I don't even know what the hell did Haley actually come over to Danny's for. Why? You came over there, you just practically broke on in, and then when Danny's like, all right, she came in. Okay, never mind. She came in there to sit there and show her a home pregnancy test, and I'm like, but she don't believe you, and you just show her this little stick and say, see, I'm pregnant. It's right here. You think she's gonna be like, oh, wow. I mean, damn, I'm so glad. Like, no. So she's like, yo, listen, I need you to sit there and do it right in front of me. Or we can go to the hospital and we can do it. Or we could just be at an impasse and then I just don't believe you. If you went all the way over there to do that, you pretty much just wasted your gas. So she goes back to Bill and starts complaining. Now, Bill gave Thomas an assignment. Pretty much just watch out for the family. Mostly watch out for him. If they start talking kind of greasy or whatever, he wants to know. And he wants him to be his gopher man, just like with the whole meeting thing. And Kat comes over after talking to Leslie, and Kat is pretty much like, wow, this is taking so long. And I have a stream to do tonight, so this is going to be very interesting. But anyway, Kat was busy with Leslie. See, Kat is for the most part just kind of just chilling, mind her own business, and Leslie just walks over and she's like, I ain't right you over here. And she sits down anyway, and long story short, she's like, yeah, I'm in a process of trying to do this whole restraining order thing, but it seems like the cops that are probably brought by the Duprees are just dragging their goddamn feet. But he also says that she's going to sue her for defamation. Right? So she does all that, and I guess she, climbs on her broomstick or whatever and leaves. Oh, no. Kat left, and Kat went to Bill's office to get some advice from Thomas, which is really interesting because, one, Thomas does get to sit there and kind of spy for Bill, but two, you got legal advice and you didn't actually hear any of it. Like, you heard what you want to hear. You was upset with Jacob for taking his time, and Thomas was like, that's not how the law works. Well, everything that I heard from the True podcast, I get that some of these people don't sit there and say, disclaimer, we're not actual, like lawyers and stuff like that, but this man is not there telling you that's not how that works. And he makes an example as far as like, we kissed or whatever. And he kind of breaks it down like you need an eyewitness, you need this, you need that, And here's the thing, she says, well, I gave him enough circumstantial evidence to, get her arrested. Girl, you just said that you gave him circumstantial evidence. Do you even hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? That's the thing about Kat. Kat's entitled. But more importantly, she is hearing what Thomas is saying, but she's not listening. She don't care. She wants what she wants. And I get that Leslie and Eva, they're not exactly the greatest people. Eva's a little bit better, she's been brainwashed, but she does have a brain, so I'm not letting her off the hook that much. But I get her, wanting to sit there and take down Leslie. But, the only thing that she's going to wind up doing is going to get in Leslie's way, and that ain't going to be good. So anyway, while Haley's sitting there complaining about Danny, Naomi comes over. And Bill tells Naomi that Haley's pregnant. And now I'm sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, bro, how come you are not a little more sus of her? Like, she says she's pregnant, so you just believe her? I don't know. It's just, like, if Danny's not there, like, the way that she laid it out was like, you might want to listen to homegirl. I'm just saying. But anyway, he tells Naomi that she's pregnant. And, you know, she's obviously not liking the news or anything like that, and she's pretty negative about it for the most part. And Naomi and Haley kind of go back and forth for a little bit, and she calls her step monster. I was like, oh, here we go with this stupid slang again. At some point, I guess all the commotion and the stress and everything like that, Bill starts fumbling on his words. And, you know, Naomi's like, yo, didn't you sit there and get that checked out? Like your hand or whatever? And Haley's like, oh, like, yo, this is not the first time that wound up happening. And he's just like really finding it very difficult to catch his words. And he does catch his words eventually, but they're both looking like, yo, this is serious. You need to go to the hospital. You know? Andre is at the hospital. I don't really know why he's still at the hospital for. I thought the documentary was already done. But he's hanging out with Ashley. He's, you know, it's not there seeing how things is going. I guess he assumed that things didn't go well. He was like, oh, well, you know, I'm here. You know, I just showed her or whatever. And, you know, Derek comes over and he's like, nah, she got two good shoulders right here. And they basically tell him that they made up, and even though that they're not living together, they find that's what worked best for them. So Andre does his best impression to sit there and try to act like he's happy for them, but you can tell he's not really that happy for her in the situation. And I guess he texts Danny, and he comes over. And I think Danny made like some sort of comment like, oh, well, it took you so long or something like that. And they get into this argument, right? And long story short, you know, Andre is just kind of pissed off. He's like, I came over here and I want to be with you. And the first thing you're simply doing is complaining about two other people when you have somebody here that actually gives a damn about you. And this whole argument comes down to him wanting more. And Danny's like, you knew exactly where I stood. I gave my heart to somebody for years, and it didn't work out. And I'm not ready. And she gets to a point where she's like, you know, you ghosted me for a while, and you're coming over here, and, you know, you're finding excuses to sit there and pretty much dump me like I've been dumped after a lifetime of a marriage, and now you're sitting there finding reasons to do the same thing where I told you where I stood. And this is a great conversation. You know, this is a great conversation. The problem with it is that it just seems like it goes nowhere, right? Like there's a point where they're kind of heated or whatever, and then it's almost like Andre kind of takes some steps back. He was like, well, you know, listen, I'm fine with how things are, and, you know, you are? Because Danny's sitting there like, you don't seem like you want to wait, and, you know, you seem like you want to kick me to the curb, and he walked in there like, you know, you're embarrassed just to sit there and see me in public. So clearly you want more from her than just, you know, the devil's tango. But now you're sitting there saying that you're fine, and you start making out. I'm like, what? Like, I cannot be the only person that sat there and looked at that scene like, what the fuck was that? What was that? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like that's pretty much about it. There might have been a little bit more, but that's the general gist of the episode. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section. I'm going to do my best to sit there and try to make this 9 o'clock now deadline to do the live stream, and we'll sit there and talk, and we'll go through this and some other stuff. I'll see you in the next video.